Lisa is a 7-figure business strategist, and she makes 90% of her money through passive and semi-passive income streams. So opening her first business in the wedding planning industry. Lisa also wrote a best-selling international book called Making Money Online. She also is the host of the podcast show Make Money Online as well. One thing I love about you is that you practice what you preach. You actually live by what you actually do. And that's quite rare, I think, from a lot of people that work in our industry. You don't see people in the spotlight like you are. Do you know what I mean?
I think that what tends to happen is once people have made a few million, they kind of feel further away from their audience. I never have. I still understand the issues that people feel when they're really trying to make this work, and the frustrations that happen with starting a business and growing a business. And so because of that, I don't think I've ever really had that whole gap between me and my audience. Like, I feel like we're all in it together. And so when people say to me, if you feel very different to other people that have made the same amount of money, I feel like I'm in there every day, trying things, testing things, seeing what works, telling my audience if it's worked or not, trying to be the pioneer that is able to experiment so that other people don't have to.
What I love about the book is it feels like I'm sitting next to you on a sofa and you're kind of like just talking to me. Well, that's what I love about the book. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's quite rare when it comes to audio books. So you kind of have this like connection with somebody to think, damn, she's on the money. One chapter, which was, which really jumped out on me, which was the last one, chapter 11, which was all around ethics. And I love about that because it's like, one thing I love about you is you really love to ruffle a few feathers. You know what I mean?
I don't mean to, right? It just happens.
No, but the thing is, if you're not going to say anything about it, then who the hell is? Do you know what I mean? Exactly. So it's kind of, so, because otherwise, if we're not, and again, I'm a big believer of self-awareness. If you're not self-aware about what's actually happening, and you're kind of like seen as like the homing beacon of like education and what we need to, what you're doing is effectively as strategists, we're protecting our clients, aren't we? That's what you're doing is, and you being a mom as well, and as parents, we protect our audience. That's what you do, right?
Yeah, and I think I'm not just protecting my audience. I am protecting me 5 years ago. So, I was conned by a lot of the things that happen in this industry 5 years ago. And when I spoke about it then, when I was making no money, people would say, well, you're only saying this because you're jealous of them. That's what people always used to say. If you talk out about any kind of ethical problem, or you talk out about anyone that's doing something slightly shady, you must be doing it because you're jealous. And so I knew that one day when I'd overtaken them all financially, I would still be able to talk about these things and no one would be able to say it's because you're jealous because you're not making the money they are. And so that's what I did. We've made, I think we're up to about 15, 16 million now in the past 5 years or 6 years. And no one's going to look at me and say, well, you're only saying that these things are wrong because you haven't made the money. I've made the money. And so now it's my responsibility to still talk about these things. It would be easy not to, because actually what you're taught when you get to multi-seven figures is only ever be positive. Don't ever say anything negative, because if you start saying things that are negative, you're going to lose a few people, and people don't want to hear that. But actually, I think that it's our responsibility at a certain point to highlight the kind of things that are going on in an industry if you want to change that industry.
You talk a lot about authenticity, integrity, and values. Like, you talk about that a lot, whether they're starting out or if they got an existing business. What are the things that you look for in working with clients or working with people that kind of match your core values?
From both sides, there's red flags. So, I still work with business consultants now. I work with, sales consultants, people that can help me in some way. And I look for the same things in my suppliers or in the people that I'm going to be learning from as I do from the clients that I have. And I do tend to attract people, whether clients or not, that do have the same values as me. And one of the biggest ones really is just transparency. I just believe that whatever you're doing, make it transparent that you're doing it. So, if I've had clients before, I have had a client before in my mastermind that would be talking very openly about making multi-6, 7 figures online, but telling me that she's not making any money as a client. I can't work with that client. It goes against everything that I believe in. So I then have to say, I'm really sorry if you're going to continue to talk a different way in here than out there. That means you're not being transparent. It means you're not being honest. I can't work with you. And we parted ways. And that's the same with people that I've worked with people before that I've really looked up to for years. And then once I've worked, I think they're at a certain level. Maybe they've said that they've made multi-seven figures. And so I've gone to work with them and then find out what they meant was they've made multi-seven figures over the entire time they've been in business, not each year. And so then I can't work with them, because for me, that's just a manipulative way of getting people to work with you. Whereas even if they'd said to me they had half the amount or even a tenth of the amount that they'd made, I still would have wanted to have worked with them. I just cannot cope with dishonesty.
Yeah, I agree. I think you make a really important point, and I believe that we can be hypocrites. You know what I mean? Like we claim to be something, but actually, in true reality, was what you're saying. In true reality, it's not entirely true, is it? And I don't know the reason why they do it. Maybe it's because they want to gain a client, or
I honestly think they've been taught it. I think that we're in this industry where the people that we've been looking up to made stuff up in the industry because they were the first people to do it. So they didn't know. They just thought, well, maybe this is what salespeople do. Maybe this is what you do online. And they taught us certain ways of doing things. The whole scarcity thing. I've got 5 spots, and once those 5 spots are gone, they're gone. And everyone knows that they haven't. Or, we're going to close this launch on this day. Oh, we're reopening it again for 5 days. All of that kind of stuff was taught. And so it's almost not the fault of the people doing it, because they were taught that's the thing to do. So was I.
Yeah.
But at some point we can decide there's a different way, and that we don't have to do things that way. We can do things another way and still be successful. And it's why when I do we just had a 2.3 million launch. When we do these launches, we like to show behind the scenes at the transparency and honesty that is happening, so that people can see another way and go, well, actually, she's making a decent amount of money. She's not doing any of these she doesn't have invisible offers or any of the rest of the stuff. There's no trauma marketing going on.